Welcome everyone. My name is David Olish, and today I've got a talk prepared about the Apple TV.
So you're the only presentation?
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, we were going to have another presentation from someone flying in from San Francisco, but then the price of flights went up to like $900 for today. So I had to change those plans. All right, there we go. Welcome. So, I don't know if y'all have heard, but Apple gave away some developer kits to developers at the end of September, and they gave them away in a lottery, and I was lucky enough to win one of those developer kits. Come on in. So they let all Apple developers submit their names as people interested in developer kit, and then they did a lottery where they gave away some of those developer kits to developers. And so I received one of those about 6 weeks ago. I've been playing around with it and learning all the frameworks that are in there and how you work with Apple TV compared to iOS. But before I started, I wasn't really that sure. So when I got the TV, I didn't even open it for a few days because I wasn't even sure if I wanted to, dedicate all this time to learning new hardware and new platforms to develop on. And so the question that I had was, like, should I even make an app for Apple TV? Is it worth it? And now that I've been working on it, and it's kind of speaking to some people that are in the industry, I think the answer is yes, you should. If the app idea you have is at all entertaining. If you have like an entertaining app idea, you should go for Apple TV first. I listened in on a webinar by Funware. They're a local services company that builds consumer software mostly for their clients, for companies like NBC and NASCAR. And they said that their clients are really excited about Apple TV. They're all going to have something on the App Store by Christmas, but they're not going to actually have their really immersive, fully native Apple TV apps until the end of next year. It takes them a little longer to build things. And so us as independent and smaller team developers, we've got an opportunity right now to build apps with Apple TV before all the other larger companies come in at the end of next year. And if the Apple TV is anything like the iTunes Music Store was back in 2003, or the App Store in 2008, then there's going to be a ton of consumers that are already going to open up their Apple TV on Christmas this year. They're going to want apps then. And next year there's going to be more. And so by the end of next year, or even earlier, it's not even going to take until the end of next year for there to be a lot of people who want to be entertained on the Apple TV. And so I've been in mobile development now for 3 years. And kind of what I've noticed is that the apps that are successful are the ones that can get people to stay in their app and use it every day or at least once a week. And even if you can just get a core kind of group of early adopters to use your app, if they use it a lot, if they spend a lot of time in it, you can have a lot of opportunities to get them to share your app with their friends, and to you have a lot of opportunities to ask for reviews. So if you can just get some people to spend time in your app, then you'll be able to grow your app and then eventually make money off of it. And so with that in mind, I did some actual research and statistics, and I found this really interesting study from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they do every year they survey 11,000 paid volunteers. They call them up once a week for 8 weeks, and they talk to the person and figure out how they spent their time that day. And so they'll ask, like, how much time did you spend working? How much time preparing food? What were your leisure activities today? How much time did you spend in each activity? And out of 11,000 people, the average person spent more than half of their time watching TV, half of their leisure time. And so we now have the opportunity to build apps that are going to be on that same television. And so I think it's an opportunity to build apps that people spend time on, which is what consumer apps require to be successful. So I think that's a good, that's convincing enough for me to want to invest time into this platform. And so I've done some of that, and today I'm going to share with you what I've learned. And so today I've got these 5 topics I'm going to cover on for kind of what you need to know to start building apps for the Apple TV. The first one is the tvOS frameworks. These are frameworks just like on iOS. You use frameworks to when you're developing apps for pretty much anything from accessing the user's camera to getting their contacts to putting things on the screen. All those things require using Apple's frameworks, and so it's important really to understand which frameworks you have available when you're developing an app. Next, I'm going to talk about how you can use open source libraries on tvOS. And again, if you build some apps, you'll know that the open source community is really big on iOS, and so having access to those different libraries on tvOS is really useful. But there are some things that you have to know to use the existing open source libraries on tvOS. Then I'm going to talk about how you manage data on tvOS, and it's a little bit different than what you're used to on iOS, but it's enough that I can cover in a few slides. And then I'm going to talk about limitations of tvOS. So that's things that you might assume that would be available on tvOS that aren't, and things you want to keep in mind when you're brainstorming app ideas. And then I'm going to talk about tvOS design and how you deal with this new platform where instead of being a touch screen in someone's hand, it's a remote control thing that goes on the TV. So when you start developing your apps, you have 2 options for how you're going to write the code. The first option is like a traditional app using UIKit in either Objective-C or Swift. And that's what most of us here in the iPhone developer group are going to be used to using, and what I would recommend. However, there's a second option, which is called TV markup language. And with the TV markup language, also known as tvML, this is a good option if your app is primarily a streaming video content app, and you've already got all of your business logic and user accounts on a server somewhere, because tvML makes it easier for you to just build on top of what you already have. And this is really what all those TV channels are going to be using to get their apps out this year. And it's good for them, but it's not really something I would recommend really spending too much time on. But it is available if you are making a streaming app. And so tvOS, that's the operating system that the new Apple TVs run on, and it's kind of built on top of iOS, and it has access to a lot of the same frameworks, but only about half of the iOS frameworks are available on tvOS. And so I made this diagram here, and I don't know if people can read this, but on the left, we have all the iOS frameworks that are only available on iOS. In the middle, we have frameworks that are available on iOS and tvOS. And then on the right, we have 3 new tvOS frameworks. And kind of the most important things to to get from this list is that on tvOS, you don't have access to address book framework, you don't have HealthKit, HomeKit, iAd, MapKit, social framework, or WebKit. Those are all not available. So those are things that would be useful but aren't actually available. But we do get really great ones like Core Bluetooth is on tvOS, so you can use that to talk to nearby Bluetooth devices from your TV. We get Core Data for managing data, Core Location, so you can customize your app's content to your user's location, and of course UIKit, which is really important for making apps that for us developers who are coming from the iPhone. And the next question is, does CocoaPod support the tvOS platform? So the answer is yes. They built in support as soon as they knew about the new platform. And so as of version 0.39.0, you can use CocoaPods to manage your dependencies for your tvOS projects. But not all CocoaPod libraries support the tvOS platform. And the reason is that some changes need to be made to the metadata and then also to the code of the library so that it can get around the missing frameworks that a lot of libraries do use. And so if you have a library that you want to use in your app, in your tvOS app, and it's not yet been converted to work with tvOS, there's a few steps that you have to go through to convert it if you want to convert it yourself. So the first thing is you open the library's podspec file and you add in this line, s.tvos.deployment target equals 9.0. And so this will let CocoaPods know that this library supports tvOS. And so if you add that into your podspec file, you can run pod install and it will install your project, or it will install that library as a dependency in your project. But if you go to run it, you'll probably get some errors, so you're not completely done. And here, for example, this is the SV Progress HUD library. This is something I wanted to use in a tvOS app. So I started converting it, and when I went to run it, I got these 15 issues. And probably people can't read them, but almost all of those issues have to do with user interface orientation not being available on tvOS. And that kind of makes sense because there's no really way where you can turn your TV on the side like you can an iPhone or iPad. And so to fix this, you use two macros. One is the target OS iOS and the other is target OS TV. And using these macros, you can selectively compile different code based on the platform you're building for. And so here, for example, to get rid of the orientation, all I had to do was say if it's iOS, then keep it as it is, but if it's tvOS, just ignore the orientation parameters. And so this, putting these in a few different places in the code, I was able to get rid of all my errors, and then I was able to use this library on tvOS.
Did you do that for every .env file?
Yeah, so just wherever you get errors. And so what you want to do is you want to make like a general method that they can both use inside the actual. This is in the header. Actually, this was in the env file, but really generally it's going to be in the header file. And so yeah, so you have to update it in a lot of different places depending on the app. So some it won't make sense, but for a lot of the apps where you want to be using an open source library, it won't be that many places. And so it's been about 6 weeks since developers have gotten their hands on the Apple TV, and so a lot of open source libraries have been updated to work with tvOS. So like the SV Progress HUD library, I made those updates about 2 weeks ago, and now that's been merged back into the open source library, so now everyone can use SV Progress HUD on Apple TV. So once you start developing for your, once you start developing app, you'll notice this issue, which is that your local storage can be deleted at any time on tvOS. And this is not something we're used to developing for iOS, because that's not a thing there. But on tvOS it is. And the reason is that, for example, if a user is using your app and then they exit out and go buy a movie and start watching it and it downloads, whenever the disk fills, even with 32 or 64 gig models, with all the content people are going to be having on their TVs, the disk is going to fill up. And so they don't want to pause the movie and make the user go delete some files. Instead, the OS says, okay, I can find some files to delete. And so it'll delete your files, which is better for users. But if the user then finishes the movie and goes back to your app and your data's gone, that's not going to make them happy either. And so what you want to do is you want to use iCloud to back up any of your local data. And so you can use CloudKit for larger pieces of data, but for smaller things like preferences and maybe a profile picture, you can use iCloud Key Value Store. And this is really similar to NS user defaults. To use it, for example, to write to iCloud, you just get a pointer to your default store, and then you can set an object for a key. And then when you tell it to synchronize, it'll save all the changes up to iCloud, so that even if your local storage is cleared, you'll still be able to get these things back. Important to note on iCloud Key Value Store is it doesn't work in the simulator, so you will need an actual device if you want to use this. And then if you want to read from iCloud Key Value Store, it's also simple. You just get a pointer to your store, and then you can pull out any object for a key. And this is really cool because it'll also synchronize to all of your users' devices. So if you have an Apple TV app and you also have an iPhone app, those settings will synchronize between the different devices as long as they're using the same Apple ID. Of course, that does bring up the challenge of what happens if they delete something on the iPhone and then they rename it on the TV. Well, iCloud has built-in notifications that will get sent to your app to let you know about conflicting changes, and then you can handle those right within your app. And then, so here's the new remote that comes with it. Yes.
Do you want to hold questions until the end, or just...
You can ask me.
Okay. I believe that NS user defaults you can store locally up to 512K.
Okay.
That's my understanding. So that can be a big thing
On tvOS.
on tvOS.
But that's also going to get cleared, right?
I don't believe anything above 512 will get deleted, but I believe they allow anything below 512K to be persistent.
Got it. But then with this you get 1 megabyte, and it's just as easy. So.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is the new remote that comes with the new Apple TV, and the main thing is the trackpad at the top. And users can scroll up and down, left and right, and whenever they swipe across the trackpad, it moves the focus on the screen through the different elements that you have in your app. And then there's a physical click on that trackpad too, where that'll then select whatever's currently focused. And then there's also a menu button that'll take users back to the previous screen, all the way back to the home screen. Then there's this Apple TV button that takes them straight to the home screen, and you can also double tap that remote or that button to go into the app switcher, like in iOS. You can even close apps from inside the app switcher. Then you've also got some up and down or volume up and down buttons that will directly synchronize to the TV, so you can control the actual TV volume from the remote. Then there's a Siri button that you can press and hold to access Siri from anywhere. You can do things like switch to a different app or search for movies. I've even seen some people using it to control actions within an app using accessibility labels on buttons. So you can do a lot with Siri there. And then there's also a play pause button, and that one you can use to play and pause content, but I've also seen apps use it as like a action or like a arbitrary action button. So like Airbnb, when you're browsing listings, you hit play, it'll favorite that listing. And so you can get a lot of extra functionality out of that button. So to review what we've covered so far, talked about tvOS frameworks and how they're inherited from iOS, but more limited to what you actually have access to. Then I talked about how you use open source libraries, using CocoaPods, and how you can modify an existing library if it doesn't yet support tvOS. And I talked a little bit about how you manage data and how you can deal with or kind of prevent your app data from disappearing. And so I've got two more things, which are the limitations of tvOS and design on tvOS. So for limitations, there's three things to know about. The first is there are no push notifications on tvOS. And kind of the reason for that is users are not going to have their TV with them. And so getting a notification when they're not with the TV is not going to have any use. And if they are at the TV and maybe watching a movie or whatever else they're doing, they probably don't want to be interrupted. And so I think those are the reasons that Apple decided push notifications don't really make sense on Apple TV. And so we don't have push notifications. And so if you're used to iOS, it's like a really important part of your push notifications are a really important part of like the experience of an app. Well, that's not something that you have on the TV. Another thing you don't have is app badges. And app badges are little red circles with a number that will be on your app icon on iOS. Those are also not on the Apple TV. And I think that would actually be a really good thing to have.
Do new versions of the app update automatically, like there's no syncing between devices?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about versions, but I'm guessing they'll. Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to look into that.
Are you just asking if they update on their own?
Yeah, exactly.
They do. I actually just follow on Monday, and within settings, they can choose from automatic updates or update manually.
Got it. Awesome. So no app badges, which are unfortunate because that'd be a really great way for like Netflix to tell you there's a new episode of a show you're watching. But there is another way to showcase your new content for users. So I'm going to cover that in a few slides. And then the last limitation is there's no web views in the Apple TV. And so web views are a way to show HTML content in your app, such as like a web page or a login form. And that's not available on the Apple TV. And I think the reason that Apple decided to do that is that the web was not designed for being viewed on a TV. If you've ever tried to like even AirPlay a website, it's like impossible to read what's on the screen. And so I think for that reason, Apple said we're not going to let developers have this option. We're going to force them to do nice things themselves. So some more about design is that so with the remote input where users can go horizontally and vertically, it makes sense that all your app user interfaces should be primarily grid-based, and because that's the most natural way where users can quickly get to a thing by scrolling horizontally and vertically. Also, for when you're designing an Apple TV app, you should avoid text inputs. And text inputs, I think, is like the biggest weak point of the Apple TV. If you want to enter a 5-letter word into a text field, you have to scroll through an alphabet of letters, one letter at a time. So you gotta swipe to the first letter, then select it, swipe to the second letter, select it. If you want to capitalize a letter, you have to like switch keyboards, and there are some shortcuts that you kind of figure out after a while, but it's still just a list of letters that you have to select through. And there's not even a dictation, so you can't use Siri to enter text into text field like you can on the Apple Watch.
Well, what about they don't have a remote?
No, you can't. Yeah, you can't use the Siri remote to enter text. You can.
I mean, you can't download it. They don't have a controller app for Apple TV. For the new Apple TV, like they do for the current one?
Yeah, so
Or the old
they
one?
have not updated the remote app yet. So
That's where the keyboard will be.
yes.
It
So,
doesn't work the new one.
right. Yeah. So right now there's no way to. There's no keyboard, and there's no way to enter text using your iPhone or text or speech. So.
Okay, so there's no ability to do it. It's not just frowned upon. There's no
There's
way.
there's no input method other than the built-in
There's
keyboard.
no UI text field.
No, there is a UI text field, but it's the way that you enter. The only way to enter text is to select the text field, and then you get a list of the entire alphabet, and then you swipe to the letters that you want.
It's like trying to type on an Xbox or something.
Yes, it's like exactly like that.
Xbox.
Yeah. So that's not.
So you can do it. It's just frowned upon.
Yeah. Well, it's frowned upon because
Okay.
it takes
Right, okay.
5 seconds per letter to enter text. And so that's why I would say avoid that in your design. And then same goes for text. Don't show a lot of text on your app either. So if you came to the September meetup, I had some slides with code samples on them, and people in the back half of the room couldn't see them. And so I had to exit out of my keynote and switch to Execute where I could make the text bigger. And so same thing goes for your apps. You don't want to have a lot of text on your screen for your apps. It should be like something that people can read, just like these slides, in 2 seconds. And then the last thing I want to mention on design is the top shelf. And this is how you get people to see like your new content that you have. So if you're in the top shelf or in the top row of apps on the home screen, that's the top 5 apps, then when a user puts the focus onto your app, you get the whole top of the screen to show your new content. And you've got 2 different ways to show content. You can either use this style, which is called section style, or this style, which is called inset style. So you got those 2 different styles, and you can put an image for each one of these, and users can scroll through those, and when they select one of your top shelf items, they'll launch directly into your app and to the corresponding content that you select for that. Yes.
Is this new content as in a new app version, or is it new content as in the app was able to download something like the new series or something?
Yeah, so this is, at any time, you can dynamically change what content is being displayed there. So it's actually an extension that runs for your app that determines exactly which content to show there. And so that's what's called a top shelf provider. So if you implement this top shelf provider, then you can say what you want to show there. And so it just requires 2 methods. One is top shelf style, which is just one of the 2 styles, either sectioned or inset. And then you also need to implement top shelf items, which is an array of TV content items, which have the metadata for each of those, which image, which text you want to display. And so if you, I've downloaded a bunch of apps, and a lot of them aren't using this top shelf, and I think that's the way that you're going to get people to, first of all, put your app in the top row, because if you don't have anything, no one's going to want to have you in the top row. And then it's also going to be what gets people to go back into your app when they're just scrolling by it. And so this is top shelf provider, I think, is really important, and that's going to be the way that you get people to spend more time in your app, which is how you're going to be successful.
Are all these images static? Can like that be an animated image that you can show?
No, the images are, as far as I've seen, only a static image. Yes.
What language is that?
That is Objective-C.
They do support Swift and all that, right?
Yes. Swift is supported. So now it's time for questions. Does anyone have any questions about what I've covered?
Did you write an app yet?
Not that I've put on the App Store, but I made a weather app, and then, but I didn't polish it up enough to where anyone would want it. And then I made a Hacker News app, which doesn't make any sense because there's no web browser.
Is it pretty loaded on Apple TV yourself?
It's what?
Is it pretty easy to put an app that you write yourself onto the Apple TV?
Oh yeah, you just need a USB-C cable.
Oh, you do have to plug into it.
Yes, yeah, you plug
They
it into.
won't do it over the air.
You can, yeah, so you can do test flight, but best thing is to do is you can add the Apple TV just like an iPhone to your developer portal, and then you can run apps through a USB-C cable.
Are the buttons on the control programmable?
They, you mean to control the volume?
Or are they, look like there were like 4 buttons on there. Are they programmable? Are they available for the developer?
So only the play button, as far as I know. Maybe you could use the volume, but so the play button, I've seen apps using it for other, for.
So that is
other
definitely
actions.
programmable.
Yeah, so the play button, and then Siri is just Siri, but I saw a video of someone using it to like control what the app was doing inside the app using Siri, and then and then you have access to like the scroll information or the swipe information.
Right, on the top part, right?
Yeah.
I had a question about, well, first of all, have you played with the TVML stuff?
I haven't.
Okay, well, all right, kind of shortcuts my second question.
Yeah.
I played a little bit with it. I might be able to answer.
Well, my question is really geared towards, like you mentioned, it's you're putting resources out on a web server someplace and then pulling them in, right? So speed is going to be key to user experience.
It's
so.
pretty much like a web app. I mean, all of your real code
Right.
is out there sitting on a server.
Right. So my question is really geared towards anybody have any thoughts on the best place to put that content for speed? It's cloud-based, right? So we're talking,
Somewhere with the CDN, right?
yeah. Should we go CDN? Should we go Amazon? Just an Amazon
I don't know.
instance?
Does it have to be like? Is it?
Plex, the new Plex app that's a local server. It's just running on your own computer, and that's what they just have they did some fancy stuff, but it's basically just like a big payload of all the information on the series, TV show, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you can slice them. They had to write like another layer on top of that, but I don't think that answered the question.
While I was doing my research, I did find someone in Austin who's already doing a lot of TVML stuff, so I could show you his website. And
Yeah.
like some articles.
That'd be great, yeah. Yeah, because it's just obvious that, speed's gonna be key,
Mhm.
right, in that situation. If it doesn't load well, then, I'm not sure if it's clear yet what Apple's standard will be for that. I was kind of shocked that they put that much control in the developer's hands.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what they were using before tvOS. So
Right,
all the old apps, those are all TVML.
right.
Have you heard of this app called Zova? Z-O-V-A?
No, I haven't.
So it's like a workout yoga kind of app, but what's really cool is they ported the heartbeat from your Apple Watch and put it on the Apple TV. So while you're working out, you can see your heart rate without having to check your watch.
Right.
Have you played with any kind of like watch to Apple TV integrations, or does that make any sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think it wouldn't. I think it's not that easy because like the app or the watch like is really at home talking to its iPhone, but I don't know exactly how it's going to talk to the TV. But you do have core Bluetooth, and but that's maybe not the best. But the WatchOS 2, the watch is pretty pretty independent. So don't know exactly how they're doing it, but
I could do the cloud somehow, so it doesn't actually
yeah.
talk directly.
But that'd probably be way too slow for a heartbeat.
Well, the heartbeat is actually not measured that often anyway.
Runkeeper does it. With a Runkeeper app, you actually measure it for your whole run.
Yeah, but it's like every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that's fair.
And it's not really a heartbeat.
And so if you're interested in this topic, we're doing a whole hackathon on Apple TV for Apple TV apps. It's going to be on November 22nd. We're going to have a full day here. We're going to be down on the 5th floor of Capital Factory, and we're going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner provided. There's going to be mentors and expert judges, we're gonna decide which team comes up with the best app, and there's gonna be prizes for the winning teams.
Is that a Saturday?
It's Sunday, actually.
Sunday.
Cool, and sorry, this was just a general question, not about this specifically. So you know, like the icons have that like parallax thing.
Yeah.
How does that work exactly? Is it just some class method on like UI image that's like top layer, bottom layer? Or do you have to like prepare it like that in some special
Yes,
format?
I believe you have to prepare the image.
You have to provide 3 separate images.
Yeah.
Okay.
The image cassette gives you all the different drop zones to put them in.
Okay, cool.
Pretty cool.
Where do you find good information on becoming more savvy at Apple TV apps? Do you focus on that information from Apple, or do you have some other honey holes to find
Good question. I've mostly been looking on GitHub. That's the best place. I've just been looking at code that other people have been doing to figure out how they're doing stuff, because it's not really too complicated. So like for the CocoaPods, how to do that, I looked at AF Networking, because they were one of the first to convert or kind of do a branch that supported tvOS, and so I just looked at what they were doing. And but yeah, there's not really anyone who's writing a lot of stuff yet.
What do you think, just guessing at the trend in terms of market demand or the amount of focus that would be smart to put in this direction?
So I think my guess is that Apple's going to sell more Apple TVs this year than iPads, even with the iPad Pro, because like it's at like a really easy buy level at $150, and it's also like I said, people spend so much time watching TV, and all these other little streaming things they can plug in your TV have done pretty well, even though they have all these problems because they're all doing everything live over Wi-Fi. And this is actually plugged in, so I think
I
it's
assume you can access like your photo library on tvOS and stuff.
Yeah, you can access.
So I can have to stream it from my iPad.
Storehouse came out with a really cool Apple tvOS. For,
Yes.
yeah.
And so we
So
actually.
I have one thought about that is that it's really not just about what Apple's gonna do, right? Amazon's not going away. They're not gonna give up the ghost on media consumption, right? Everybody wants to be in the home, in the car, in your pocket, on your wrist, whatever. And Apple can't just like lay down and say, oh well it didn't work. We didn't sell enough Apple TVs, right? So they're going to continue to push it over time, and they always get better and better at what they do. So I don't think the competitive landscape's going to let them leave it alone. So.
What's the resolution on it?
It's only HD.
So you saw that Roku just came out with their 4K box.
Yeah, that was like the day after the pre-orders, right, for Apple TV.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced for apps, obviously it's the way
Let's
to
get
go.
both.
But as far as TV watching,
I mean, if I had a 4K TV, I'd also want a 4K.
on what?
Oh, no.
You know if it can do 60
There's no content.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know that, but I'm just saying that Roku supports a whole bunch of stuff.
How easy is it to interface with just iOS devices? Like if I wanted to control, like, I actually wanted part of the control of my iPhone or iPad or something.
Yeah, so I haven't tried that yet, but I think it would do well because you're probably most of the time going to be on the same Wi-Fi network, and so you can use Wi-Fi to communicate, and then you have Bluetooth if you want to fall back to that.
Okay.
And then.
One of the things that somebody back there mentioned that about, I don't know if TV is going to be the driver. Maybe apps will be, but not necessarily TV. My 12-year-old daughter watches TV on her iPad or on her laptop, and there's a 52-inch television sitting there off. Just beyond that, right? They can care less about the TV. It's about consuming things, right? So maybe as we look at these things, we really shouldn't think of it as a television. We should think of it as a display a monitor, yeah, a big ass monitor that we can put apps on.
But the truth is you can get anything on an iPad.
Yeah.
That tvOS will do.
Right.
And more.
Right.
And by the way, when you're sitting there watching TV on your iPad, especially if you have the new one, I mean, it's great.
Right.
It's crystal clear. The sound is great. You wear a set of headphones, and you're in great shape.
Yeah. So where is this big display going to show up? You know,
For the
besides just
same
living
thing we're doing
rooms?
right now, on a smaller scale, which is multiple people using one entertainment device together. So like MLB, they have an Apple TV app where you can watch the game, but you can also have all the stats up there where everyone can see them all at once. So you can, everyone can talk about the stats together instead of just like you on your iPad doing up stuff like that where multiple people are.
Well, there's no doubt watching TV on an 8-inch TV on $4,000 chair is really great.
Yeah.
Well, you get your feet right.
And so another cool thing is this remote works with the simulator. So you can, so this is right here is the Apple TV simulator, and I can control it with the actual real remote.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so here's my really great Hacker News app that shows you the titles of the stories, and it's also not listening to Apple's recommendation, which is to leave 60 points of space at the top and 90 left and right, so you can't see the tab bar controller. Maybe that's just this simulator being full screen. Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. So here's the app that I made just when I was learning things, which shows you the current Hacker News headlines, but you can't actually view the articles. And then here's the app switcher that you can get to by double tapping. And there's the weather app.
Is that yours too?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then here's this is the SV Progress HUD library, different things that you can do here.
You were saying that the Apple TV plugs in, or it doesn't work over Wi-Fi?
So the Apple TV works when it has a Wi-Fi and an Ethernet connection. But when you're developing for it, you want to plug it in just like
We're to the USB, but I'm saying in regular use,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to plug in.
No. You just need a power cable. Yeah, you just need a power cable and an
And then just
HDMI.
Wi-Fi.
And Wi-Fi. And then, but I would recommend the Ethernet just because Wi-Fi sucks.
In general or in use with this device?
No, just in general.
Oh, you mean, because it's not fast enough?
Yeah, like at least from like most people like myself, I have the AT&T router, and so it's.
That's your problem.
Yeah. but I have Ethernet to all my devices, so that works.
Have you done any research on using multiple remotes?
I haven't, but you can use 2 or 3. You can have 2 or 3.
Multiple.
So what's in his hand? So if you have multiple people and you're both interacting with the TV at the same time?
But so they're talking about third-party remotes. I don't know if you can.
I don't think.
I mean, it works for Wii. They can put.
Yeah, but is it 3 Apple TV remotes?
I thought you could because
You mean there's more than one games
Yeah, I mean,
in your house?
Yeah, sure.
No.
But I think you can only have
Say you're playing a board game, right? And you're each.
I think you can only have 4
Got
remotes.
it. Yeah, that makes sense.
It doesn't support.
Oh,
So
it
it doesn't support.
It does.
So you don't know.
It does. So you can use third-party Bluetooth.
That'd be
It's
good.
one controller, not like
You know, big
that.
screen.
Yeah, and I don't even think they sell those individually.
No, but like if everyone brings their components.
Yeah, that's true.
That will work. Because I carry this around everywhere.
I don't know if I could do it.
I mean, they don't sell
Are you
individually?
They
might, but still probably like $50.
Yeah.
We need
That's what I meant.
I understand one control.
So you can have more than one controller, but only one mode is like that.
Right, yeah.
Are your selection states like native, or you just wrote like a shadow under it?
For what?
So you did kind of like a table view?
Oh, yeah, that's all native. I'll just not that one. Yeah, this is all native. There's just a table view and a tab bar controller. And you can build really cool stuff. These guys in England, but they built like a BBC, like a full BBC app because BBC said they aren't going to do an Apple TV app in 9 hours. They built like where you can watch live BBC, you can browse all the different categories, you can see the episode descriptions for everything. They built that in 9 hours. And so then after that, BBC announced they're going to do an app.
Where are you finding the information on companies? Like you mentioned, like Airbnb and a couple others.
That was just from downloading their apps.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they're already out.
Yeah, so there's an app store now. I think I can maybe plug it into here. Yeah, I could plug this Apple TV in. There we go. So here's the actual Apple TV. It's not working.
Do you really need line of sight like that? Very.
Click once in the touchpad area to connect.
Oh, okay, because I think it's still connected to that.
Did you click here?
Yeah, within the touchpad, if you press, then it'll connect.
I think another thing you can do is like press and hold these. There we go. So there we go. So here's the actual Apple TV. And so there's like race car games where you can control it like this. So
that's what I asked.
yeah. So yeah, so this is you steer like this and you use the track. So you got that.
So the remote has a gyro or accelerometer?
Yeah, accelerometer.
Accelerometer, not gyro, right?
Is
it gyro?
Yeah.
It should be gyro.
I thought your slide earlier said gyro and accelerometer, but that's just based on what I remember your slide.
A4.
In my slide? I don't think I had that in my slide.
Maybe not. Maybe I went to the website. I'm probably wrong.
And then there's, so you've got photos, but this isn't connected yet.
This is third generation, right?
This is fourth.
Yeah.
And Airbnb, which probably needs Wi-Fi too.
I could have sworn it was an A8. Wouldn't mind if it was an A9, but
Yeah.
stuff.
So that's my presentation. Thank you.